Welcome to Colombia, my friend. Let me talk to you. Let me ask you a question. If you knew what will happen tomorrow, wouldn't you use this information? Have you ever heard about cocaine? You getting me or what? Would say Tony Montana. I am telling you, my friend, that we are just on the crossroad, not only in legalization of cocaine or hard drugs, but in the crossroad like a society, like a world, We are on the crossroad with artificial intelligence. There's this another technical revolution. We are on the crossroad before Christ, after Christ, before COVID, after COVID. We are on a crossroad like a mankind. You see, we are on the crossroad while whether we will use the petrol cars or electric cars, we are on the mental, emotional, psychological, philosophical, and monetary crossroad, whether we will use the cryptocurrencies or the classic system until we know it. As well with the drugs. I told you already before, the crisis will get shorter and shorter. The intervals between the crises will be shorter and shorter economically. A country like Canada, where I have stayed 1 year, and I traveled to USA to check the situation for 6 months in USA. I visited most places in USA, most places in Canada, where I've been living in Toronto City 1 year, and I traveled all parts of Canada. Now I've been in Latin America for about 4 months. 2 months Dominican Republic, 1 month Caribbean like Aruba and Curacao, and now I'm staying in Colombia, in Medellin. Before I was in Bogota. I'm telling you, here in Colombia it's legal to grow coca. I don't know if you heard about this, but it's been an anniversary of a couple of days ago, 1 year since 2 companies in Canada purchased historically first in history several kilo of medical graded cocaine from Peru, and for so-called researches, for so-called research reasons. Yeah, but we know who've been living in Canada what's going on over there. The country with the worst economical situation and with the worst conditions for living, and with the best advertisement, with the best reputation, which is sharply contra towards what's happening really in Canada. The ones who've been living in Canada know what I'm talking about, right? I'm telling you, this is it, my friend. Canada is totally, utterly corrupted state of leftists, and it's a dictatorship of social engineers. It's one of the richest countries still yet. It is, even though it's out of the 40 advanced countries, the slowest one growing, and it's economically equal to fall down of Greece a couple of years ago, when Greece practically, we know it's bankrupted Greece, right? Don't go on me with this, that it didn't bankrupt. Of course, it's bankrupted, So Canada is now facing the same challenge like a Greece couple of years ago, before they almost were printing drachma, the original currency way back. And you know how it finished, and what's going on now in Greece. So I'm telling you, Canadians, they use aggregate GDP, not GDP. It's a semi-computation, which politicians using to calm the people. In Canada, there is a medical system which is failing. I've been personally waiting 12 hours in emergency for buying this spray, to relieve my asthma, and I gave up. I couldn't buy it nowhere on the street. It was Sunday. I tried to buy it like a drug, on the street. What I say? But I couldn't find, so I have to wait until Monday, when there was no lines in so-called medical clinic where I went. I have to have a prescription. I have to purchase prescription or pay for some examination, which was useless because I know what I need. I suffer from asthma. Then I could buy it. That's Canada. It's a communistic, socialistic country, which is implementing these leftist crazy rules everywhere in medical system, in society, in education, because the leftists first they go after education. They wanna implement into the people's brain, they seek ideas. So first of all, when you want to get an education, when you want to work in Canada, you need education, right? You need everything with license. So these poor people from Afghanistan, Iran, third world countries, they came there, they realized everything is like they were not told that it's a very poor country with very little earnings, and everything is on paper. It's a example of scam. Canada is a scam as a country. So you arrive there, you realize that you can hardly make 2, 3, 4, 5K, which is 50% is taken by government. Then you got the most expensive food in the world, most expensive, room like that, to rent it in Toronto, in the wrong place. One bedroom room costs you $3,000 Canadian dollars, condo like that, $3,000, and it's even not reachable in Toronto by subway. Forget about this. The weather is so bad, everything. And then you realize you gotta feed your family, you gotta make money. Well, you don't go to educational center. What happens? Well, you need to do it fast, but you need a license. So these educators, they give you the answers to your tests before for some money. They put it on the fast track. Corruption. Simply said, wherever you go, corruption. You want to be a real estate broker in Canada? You gotta go. Congratulations. In Ontario, in Toronto, there is only one college, so-called Humboldt College. I went there, I inquired. I said, excuse me, I sold a property worth of $50 million in Southeast Asia for the last 5 years. I would like to need just a license. Okay, sir, here is our, here are our courses. It's $30,000, yes. And how long I have to study it? 3 years. What? Excuse me? 3 years? 3 years until I'm I'm an agent selling a real estate who got a license? 3 years? There is no other competition. No, it's law. You see, you need to, so Canadian government is loan sharking their citizens with their loans, to study, with their loans to have a rent, with their loans to build a career, and then they give them miserable salaries. They exploiting these doctors. You can see doctors running to US, to Chicago. It's more cheaper to study medicine in Chicago and then make a lot of money there, of course, than to study it in Canada and then do it in Canada. That's why they got no doctors. Anyway, if you are not an idiot, you know that the leftist way of thinking doesn't work. Look at Cuba. Cuba is like Canada. The trick is that Cuba has a great tropical climate, so people don't dying by famine like in North Korea there, right? Canadians, instead of the tropical climate, what allows them to implement this counterproductive economically and regarding the society, it's putting you step back, rules and kind of some kind of they facilitate these crazy rules or so-called innovative things like euthanasia and etc., all these rules and bullshit. They can afford it because they got a money. They got a biggest source of gas, of course, but they will never fracture, right? They will never allow it to mine it, even the fragment of it, because the leftist politicians don't allow it. So people are enough stupid to elect Justin Trudeau and all these hustlers, which I don't think so that they are corrupted. I think they really fully retarded and they believe what they're doing. They are out of reality. So we know Canada is emotionally, economically, psychologically, sociologically, philosophically falling apart. It's a sick society where people are traumatized. There are no relationships. You got these crazy feminist leftist women who, on the other hand, when comes the payback time, when there is a bill coming at the table, suddenly they don't mind your chauvinistic or toxic masculinity and they want you to pay. So every communist is a hypocrite, The most capitalistic country where you can buy everything is Cuba, in Schwarz system, in black system, and in China. And as well in Canada, of course. It's all, Canada, I would say, is the worst out of Cuba and China. I've been to all of them because in Canada, the socialism is absurd. It's something like in North Korea. They achieved really the plan, to make it really real. So there is, for example, no medicine. You waiting in the waiting room. You can see people. There was a guy. He got a carpet knife in his leg, and they let him wait. Like they bring him bandage. 10 more minutes. I look at the guy. He got a carpet knife in his leg, and I just had a fucking asthma. You know what I say? It could be worse. I got a friend of mine, Brazilian. She was in cosmetic business there. You know, she got a epileptic attack, you know, spasm, because she was walking out of her apartment and suddenly in front of her fall down the body. Some guy tried to fucking commit suicide. Here comes the police. They couldn't tell her nothing. She came back to the apartment. She got a epileptic, you know, attack, like a result of the stress. She drive herself to hospital somehow. Then they give her pill. She was vomiting there 3 hours, and doctor didn't came. She was falling down. She got this repeatedly epileptic attack. She was falling down. Then she went to the parking lot. She didn't know what to do. Then she was vomiting and repeatedly suffering the attack and lying and rolling in the ditch between the cars in the parking lot, and nobody helped her. This happening in Canada. After 5 hours total exhausted, she survived it with some wounds on her head. She drove back to her apartment, you know, she take some Valium or whatever. She asked the neighbor and she fall asleep, and she never was able to get, and she's a Canadian citizen, to get a medical attention. So this is a Canadian country, you know. I've been living in Toronto, you know. I was in the train when one guy stopped people in the daylight. I was in different wagon. I see the army of homeless people, you know, destroying the ticket machines, doing this. Here comes the police. They say, "Are you okay, buddy? Are you okay?" It's the police, you know. I see people, you know, selling over the counter the drugs 10 times, 100 times stronger than heroin, and or in order to destigmatize the user. You know, the heroin user don't suffer from destigmatization. He needs just to fix, you know, every morning 3 times per day. So these people go, they buy these tablets on prescription. They give them the whole bunch of tablets. They give them the whole bottle, which would kill a fucking army. Then they go on the corner right away. They change it to fentanyl and they stone themselves because they want the hardest hit. You see, so, and then when you trace it back, you find out these companies, these medical companies, which are, you know, which are supplying these pharmacies and this pharma business, they pushing to put the users on official heroin and official drugs, which are 100 times stronger than the heroin on the street. So they want to legalize them because they want to tax them. As well, every 10 meters there is a coffee shop. Everybody is stoned, marijuana. You know, you can see honking cars, car accidents. Of course, marijuana is a gateway drug. Of course, it's causing a lot of problems with traffic. Of course, it's all bullshit. But they want to keep them stoned, stupid, and calm. If you're next to the school and you light up the cigarette, you can go to jail or have a $500 penalty or $5,000. But if you smoke a crack in the kindergarten, it's not a joke. Search it out. You're free to do it. You hear me? If you stone with crack child and you puffing the smoke in his face in front of the school, you don't get a penalty. If you light up a cigarette a couple of meters from the school after you let your kid go and you walk in and you light up the cigarette, you go to jail. That's Canada. Welcome to dictatorship. You see? Same, of course, you know, glorification and positive discrimination of any kind of, you know, sexual, racial diversity, you know, which bursts out into this, that you say some vulgar things like "get the fuck out of here, faggot" or something, you go to jail, everything. You know, you white heterosexual person, you right away bombarded with guilt and all that crap. So listen up. I had to thank you who went with me with this, because I have to give you emotional body of Canada, what's happening over there. Now let's back to the topic. This was necessary, this introduction. Thank you, bear with me, because we know from economical, emotional, political, sociological, psychological and physical angle, Canada is first country which will legalize, and then US, cocaine and using of cocaine. And the system will be same like with coffee shops. I predict chewing gums shops where you can buy chewing gums, Coke based, of course, you know, energy drinks, real Coca-Cola in 1920s, you know, or powder which you sniff, whatever you want, you know. So, or cafe, hot drinks, you know, based on cocaine, Coca products, everything. So I'm telling you, this is it, my friend. This is it, and this is happening. Okay? Why? Economically, economical angle. Economical angle is the government and the lobby pharmacist, strong one, who already selling marijuana and taxing it and heroin, needs another product. They want to make money. They corrupted everything is socialism. I've been living in Czechoslovakia until 1990, when in socialistic country, and a long time in 90s it was still there, because the velvet revolution was just an oxymoron. How the revolution can be velvet? Have you ever touched the dry rain? Me no. So we know that the communists were always there, and still they are here until now. So I learned about socialist system. It's a hypocrisy, you see. So in Canada, they protect you from drugs to giving you drugs. You see, that's how it works. So we know economically the modus operandi and modus vivendi of this CEO. Canada is a capitalistic country for privileged one and chosen one. From the political party or the one who are the hypocrites or leftists. You can do your business there. If you follow the doctrine of the state. So, like in every country, same like a Fidel Castro, who got on every hand Rolex watch. He invented this way of fashion, and who was a communistic leader and living in palace with 10,000 hookers and having on every hand Rolex watch, and he was preaching socialism and communism. So similarly, you have in Canada, this the CEO, practically cartel, narcos and people who legally selling these drugs. So first, this is very strong lobby, and they are ready for it. And these two companies already purchased, as I told you, medical grade cocaine. And now they announced a couple of days ago they publicize their shares, and they expecting to US back them up. And I believe if the Biden will win elections, it will really happen, and in some Western countries as well. So Australia, Canada and US, already it's possible to transport legal to use it for medical causes, for medical reasons, for medical causes, for medical purposes, sorry, and then to transport it and as well to sell it for medical and research and purposes. So we are just one step from this before the marijuana get legalized during the Obama in US and before in Canada. So we know it. We know everybody, and this last puzzle in this mosaic, it was obvious what happened a couple of days ago when these companies, So listen up. The question is, economically it works. Psychologically, we said to each other that this is a society there is a disillusion, relationship doesn't work, emotionally people empty, no relationships. People need it. People need cocaine. They need they doing a lot of marijuana, a lot of heroin. Psychologically as well, they are encouraged, young Canadians of 30 or in their teens, by their parents who were junkies. Every Canadian is a junkie who was born in 50s, 60s. They were hippies. It's in culturally and psychologically. Cultural and psychological angle is that in Canada you gotta be proud to this, that the drugs are part of your life. Everybody knows who's been living in Canada knows what's going on, how tolerant they are. So we've been talking economical angle, cultural, psychological. Psychologically as well, except culturally. I would say culturally, because the society is, encouraging people to do this, and diversity, and, experiment with yourself and be cool, have a tattoo, shovel of heroin, sniff that crap, smoke this. You see, so this is like a cult. It's a cultural thing. Psychologically, people need it. They exhausted. The wages are not what it used to be. The real estate situation. These people I've been in real estate for 15 years. I've seen contracts for 85 or 90 years on one house, 2 contracts. I've seen people who were in their 30s and they loaned them money for 80 years to pay back. These Canadians, everybody knows that Toronto is officially most bubbled real estate market in the world. With a lot of dirty money from Iran and China, the money laundering, when the HK emptied itself, all these people flew to Vancouver. We know that in Vancouver there is 51%, according to Wikipedia, are Chinese, the inhabitants, the citizens. That's the official numbers from Wikipedia, and I have no reason not to believe it, because when I was in Vancouver, it was not 50, we know that the official city was 70%. They are in banks, they are everywhere. You see, and we know how Chinese works. I live in China, I live in Hong Kong, I know what's going on, So they are the same, the Iran, it's all dirty money. We know that they went to Venezuela when the regime was falling down, that they didn't. Then long time before, there are a lot of people who coming back to Iran, they laundering money. And same like with the kingpins who are just drugging people, so they as well inflating the market. So you can buy an apartment for $1 million, big like that, in Canada for Canadian $1 million, and that's it. The lowest option, the cheapest option is down payment $400,000 for $700,000 house for in Toronto. Good luck. If you don't have $400,000 down payment, get the fuck out of here. So this is the reality. Most expensive food, so the tremendous pressure, to pay a rent, to work in the lousy job you don't like, because as I told you, they give you training, there are a lot of immigrants, they doubled 2 times, there are a lot of criminals from Africa. I tell you, politically incorrectly, I met a lot of people, they were just stealing cars. They say, hey, we are from Uganda, this car's got a GPS, it's modern, but when we bring it to Montreal and then send it on the boat in Uganda, they will trace it, but they cannot get it out of Uganda. You can study the doctorates in different crimes. There are a lot of Indian people, Chinese, and of course, these people bringing they things from their countries, corruption, stupidity, degeneration, all these things, and racism, because most racistic people are from Africa. According statistic, the most racistic nation is Japan, second is India, and third is African nations. That's the reality, not the 6% of white people, you see. That's what a Canadian want you to think, to hate white people. So, here you go. You live in this society which is terrible. You can have a relationship, because a relationship with Canadian women doesn't exist. You gotta pay them. That's why they are socialist. In Canada, you hear me. You need for one date at least $500. You gotta buy a woman in Canada, just like in some third world countries like in Colombia. It's actually cheaper to buy them here. So, I don't want to go in detail. Emotionally and psychologically, these people are ready to legalize drugs. They need it. I never seen such a consumption of drugs in my life like in Canada. So we got a cultural, psychological, let's say emotional and economic angle, which I have mentioned. Sociologically, let's say there is the youngest population will be in Canada, because they bring in these migrants. So sociologically, young people tend to take drugs, of course. What else? Have I forgot something? Psychologically, financially, economically, and politically. Of course, that's what I said. Politically, they're ready to legalize it. There's a pressure because it's tolerated and the lobby needs it. So, I'm telling you, in Colombia, you can grow legally coca. In Canada, you can bring it here for purpose of research from Colombia or from Peru there to Canada, sell it legally for purposes, for research purposes, and then you can prescribe it or give it somebody. You see, that's the situation which is. If you don't connect the dots, you are an idiot. So maybe in 80s there was this opportunity of narcos and kingpins and drug lords like Escobar who seized the opportunity that the cocaine was coming in 80s. The market of cocaine was emerging in late of 70s. And then here comes the Escobar who switched from marijuana and from stealing the tombs and smuggling cars or whatever, or stealing cars, into the cocaine. Like a lot of people who make a lot of money in the 80s. But then we know that consumption of drugs or cocaine multiply since 1980s of last century tremendously. The market is higher, the production got higher, so you see the war against drug doesn't work. So there is something on it, but of course, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, I don't think so legalization is the reason if you ask me, but who the fuck I am to tell you what I think? I just make money on the Bitcoin in the 2012 a little bit more in 2016. I predicted Brexit. I predicted Trump become a president. I predicted fall down of Minano. I made out of 20,000 250,000 during 3 months during the bankruptcy of Sri Lanka on intervention of rupee and the dollar. I got a couple of houses around the world and flats which are renting, and I'm retired since age of 35 or 6, and I invented the way how you can make money in 99% sure in sport trading and sport betting, which is much safer than stock market. We all know it. So please don't ask me, who I am to tell you. See, I'm just an idiot. I'm just a fool. The one who is the fool doesn't act like a fool. So I'm a visionary, maybe. You see, I got this dream 2 years before the Berlin Wall fall down. I got a nightmares, and I was waking up and crying, and I saw my mother. I see the wall. It's scary. I see the wall. It's falling down. I see my dreams. Then in November 1989, I was just playing with the Lego. I was 7 years old. Sucker doesn't know what's going on. I look at the TV. I said, my mother, this is the fucking nightmare wall from my dreams. And my mother looked at it. It was a Berlin Wall. And they were just constructing, beating with the hammers. I'm telling you, my friend, that I have something which is called intuition or visual intuition. I see things. I saw Biden to win the election. I saw it. I just look at it. I cannot tell you how, but I just see him 6 months before, like he's talking to the microphone, and something tells me this is like a jamais vu or déjà vu or something. It was concentrated experience. We know that parapsychology is official. We know that telekinesis exists. It's proven. We know that telepathy exists. So we know intuition is nothing else than just congested energy. We know the NASA confirmed the existence of aura. So you can discuss with me if you fly to Middle Age, with a lighter or with electric torch or flashlight, and you turn it on, they would look at you like you are fucking witchcraft or something. Now, when I'm telling you that I see the future, then you're telling me I'm maybe crazy. But in 200 years, everybody will be able to use this fixed sense, this mental, eye, So usually these people with the strong intuitions are artistic based people. I when I was young, I published 2 books. I was an artist. Okay, they're sensitive people. I don't want to just convince you with the things. But I see the future. It's not nice, like Leonard Cohen says. That's a murder. But I can see good news is, bad news is that the future is very dark. I don't want to tell you what I see with the artificial intelligence. Not nice. I don't want to tell you what I see in terms of, immigration around the world, But let's focus on the drugs. Everything is connected to everything. There is a tremendous demand for antidepressants. We know that the drug is medicine. Medicine is drug. It's just question of how much or how you use it. We know there is studies for psilocybin. It's already happening. You see, so we know that they need to be some drug resistant depression. For depression, people suffer from depression and they're resistant to depression. The antidepressants are not the answer for that crap. We know. So everything is connected from the medical viewpoint, from culture, from financial, from psychological, from emotional, from philosophical. Here comes the times in 2024 where when you come to Colombia, maybe in 5 years, you got a statue like a fucking Columbus. You have discovered new mental fucking America full of fucking coke. We know where it all leads. If you ask me, it will lead to anarchy and incredible fall down of falling down Euro-American civilization, because we know we are somewhere like 460 after Christ. If I'm not wrong, 476 fall apart, the ancient Rome. So we got all signals that Europe and North America is in the same situations. We know that if you remove, like in old Rome, in the 5th century, if you remove all the slaves and economical power out of Europe, the Europe will not sustain itself without economical migrants. Before it could. Same in the late old Rome, when the slaves and all these people, when the labor would be kicked out of ancient Rome, they would not able to sustain themselves. They cannot work, you see. Then, second similarity, you can see a lot of drugs, using a lot of alcohol, parties, orgies, if you want. Old Romans, they enjoy it, right? They're putting opium in the wine, they were drinking hashish. Before, exceptional people like artists, politicians, Nero, who built a whole imperium on opium with wine, but forget about this. These people were exceptional, like Nietzsche was doing little drugs, little morphium in his fingers, or Freud was doing so much coke it would kill a horse. We're talking about exceptional people. Now we're talking about this, that everybody was doing it. Now you can see everybody in Canada, America, Europa is doing drugs. Everybody is normal. It's on Netflix. It's part of the lifestyle. In London every week they spend tremendous billions of pounds for cocaine testers. They just forget about it. You see, it's faster in Zurich to order cocaine than pizza. So we know that there are, regarding the total loosened sexuality, that people denying even they heterosexual, homosexual, they fucking animals, they animals who fucking animals, and they fucking animals, they fucking animals, they fucking horses and they fucking themselves animals. So you can see that the second similarity is the drugs, loosened moral and total destabilized, psychologically destabilized, the loss of the will. Every philosopher tells you, I study philosophy, that before you stop controlling yourself, first you lose the will. That's the most important thing. Once you lose the will, you're done. That's the key factor. Third thing, politicians are just the dead echoes of their predecessors. Look at Helmut Kohl. Oh my God, he was a really a politician. Now look at Angela Merkel, look at Ursula von der Leyen, look at the Bioke. She's a minister for foreign affairs, I think. She says we will not talk to Putin until he will not move to 360 degrees from his position. He will turn 360. The journalists start to go on the heck. They will putting their hands up. How many, Frau Minister? How many? 360 or 180? 360. Until he doesn't turn 360 degrees, we will not talk to him. So Minister of the Foreign Affairs thinks that the circle is, the half of circle is 360 degrees. So that's the politicians, like you can see the latest emperors in Rome. It was not a Nero, it was not a Caesar. They were just clowns. They were just getting their power. They were just securing their power with the army, and most they were like cooperating with the army which was ruling it. So we can see it here as well. So the dead echo of previous statesmen, who these clowns whose strings are attached towards the old new, ruling highest level of society, which are billionaires, and before it was king and emperors, before royal court were politicians, media, church. You can see TV was like a church telling you what to think, what to do. Then there was a layer of army, judicial system, police, and then 90% of servants, repressive, organizations and secret services, and then the servants, people like you and me, and then the bandits who didn't follow it. So you can see nothing has changed since fall Rome. The other thing, economically, Rome doesn't work. Psychologically, it's falling apart. What else we said is there is a similarity. Then we know that there are more and more cultural and religious different groups, like Muslims in Europe, or Hindu, or Sikh, or Confucians, Buddhists, whoever. And we see the Christianized gods, for example, were going from north to old Rome, and they were bringing a Christianity, so that's the other influence, the religious. The religiously Europe is changing in Western society. Secondly, if you remove the economical power from outside of the Europe or outside of the ancient Rome, it fall apart. Before it didn't. They were just okay with their own people, with the labor, with their own people. Then total orgies, and then echo of the politicians becoming just the clowns, and different kinds of the religious groups. So you can see we have 4 similarities which are undeniable in fall of the Rome and in fall of the Western every civilization went down. Sumeri, Aztecs, everybody, old Babylon, Mesopotamia, everybody went down, you see. But this society differs in one thing. It's voluntarily, their own elites voluntarily cooperate and collaborate with invaders. Like these Muslims in Europe, or Canadians with other people, and Americans with South Americans. And every nation sees exist in a fight, in some kind of a they were non-voluntarily overtaken. They were not deliberately overtaken, that's what's happening in Europe or Canada, USA. We are risking that the whole civilization will be replaced by foreigners or by people from third world. But nowhere in history, any society, you can go to Sumer, you can go to Mesopotamia, you can go to Inks, you can go everywhere. Nowhere in history, in some kind of a Germanic tribes or Slavic tribes who came from, I'm from Slavic people, they came to Asia in 9th century. Nowhere, always there was a war, or there was no deliberate cooperation with enemy, and it was the lowest class which was cooperate with the invaders, but not the elites. So nowhere in history, nowhere, any civilization ceasing to exist like Euro-Canadian, Euro-American civilization, which is shooting itself into the knee, and which is collaborating and betraying their own people. Secondly, you never seen people who believe the bullshits. You never seen such a decline of elites and stupidity, and you never had such a jumper to the power for most stupid people ever. Even though in falling Rome, the emperor Gara had something in his head, but never ever they had in all Rome somebody who doesn't know that the circle is not 180 degrees, and the half of the circle is not 360 degrees. So now you can see, because of social media and technology, which technical development and progress is two different things. Mobile phone in 1998 with the strong battery and without no smartphone, but mobile phone was a technical progress compared to the landline. But a smartphone is not a technical progress, it's a technical development, you see. It's a step back, it's counterproductive. It's created by some fucking tech billionaire who throw it on the market, it doesn't work, but he making money off you, and he makes your life much more miserable and worse, and you pay for it. It's a scam, you see. So we can see that technology is not working. It's bringing more negative than the positives. As well, we are in the situation where never ever since Homo habilis was here, 3.5 million years since the mankind, the human beings, the beginning of the human beings who evolved later on, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens, since 3.5 million years before Christ, when there is some beginning of the project called human beings, evolving from monkeys, until 1980s or 20th century, these people got the same paradigm. Yeah, of course they subject, object, logic, of course they think different, but they were born in offline world. Since 1980s last century until now, for 40 last year, there is the biggest decline and stupidity of the mankind. Everything getting faster and faster and faster, and human brain cannot absorb it anymore. That's why you got the most stupid politicians and leaders ever since I don't know when the mankind start to in Paleolithic a little bit organize itself, since 100,000 years or 10,000 years before Christ until now, you never had such a stupid leaders like Justin Trudeau, Ursula von der Leyen, or Joe Biden. And this is the reason for you to believe that cocaine will become official. You see, it's a part of the program. If I believe in conspirational theories, I would say maybe it's all prepared, but I am not like that. I am just using my synthetic, analytical, and very strongly intuitive mind. I use the ratio and emotions, heart and soul, and my brain, and cogito ergo sum. I think, so I am. I'm using critical thinking. Everything what I told you in this video is verifiable, and you can find this argument, these facts, these empiric facts, what's happening with the business of cocaine, with the society and everything. It's up to you what you're gonna do about it. I salute you. Mariturite salutant, as would they say, as in old Rome. God bless you, my friend. And don't you forget, this is the opportunity, like in 1980s, this little window when we were jumping through it like a Escobar. Now you will see Trudeau here with the white nose coming here with in the costume of Escobar talking to fucking leftist president. Here Petro in Colombia, and maybe he will be costumed just like in Bollywood costume when he was flying to fucking India talking to Modi, and he will have a white nose, and maybe there will be a lot of fucking cocaine flying over and here, and both governments on both sides of America, North and South, will start some contract. I'm telling you, don't believe me. I'm just the guy who come out with the Brexit, exit, everything, Donald Trump, Bitcoin. I'm just doing it for fun, not anymore for money. I'm just betting myself that I'm able to predict other things. And you wanna know what's gonna happen with the artificial intelligence? Or how about sex? You think you will have a sex in 5-10 years? The human being will have a sexual behaving like before? Just wait for it, my friend. And if you wanna capitalize it, please do so. It will really please me if you make some money on this chaos.